Moving on to another story today. One of Britain's top cops has branded policing in the UK institutionally racist at a fundamental level, he says. This is Chief Constable Gavin Stephens, the head of the Police Chief Council, has called for a reform of national policies and practices to eliminate discrimination. Joining me now, former Met police officer Norman Brennan is with us. Norman, good afternoon to you. We've been here many times before. It gets wheeled out from time to time. I have no idea what the specific timing of this was or why he decided to say this now, but what's your take on his words? The police are still, we could add, institutionally racist.
Well, I disagree with him. You asked why. I think it's a distraction method. Policing is in absolutely crisis. Police leadership is lost. They're woke, they're weak, they're out of touch. Their management skills are crap. They never defend policing. They never accept when they've made mistakes and then tell the public all the good things about policing. It's a distraction method as far as I'm concerned. I was the only serving police officer within policing that stood up to William Macpherson. I'd actually spoken to the Deputy Chief Constable of Kent Constabulary, Robert Ayling, and he told me that he wrote a report up. And after the murder of Stephen Lawrence, his job was to investigate the Met. He said there was incompetency in the investigation, but no racism. However, William Macpherson missed much of what he said out of his report. And what he decided was that the police service, or the Met, as it happened at the time, were institutionally racist. He also tried to define what a racist incident was. It took him about 12 definitions, and in the end, it was something that none of us could really argue with, because he said if the victim deemed that they were a victim of racism because they were black, and that's what they alleged, we had to accept it. I'll be quite honest with you. We've lost our way over 30 years. It's distracted us from the job that we need to do. We've built very good, close relationships. The police service have climbed mountains to not necessarily just appease, but to work with the black community. But there are those that have never allowed the police to move on. And whatever happens, the police are racist. And if we don't accept what they say, we're racist. Me telling you now that I don't believe we're institutionally racist, I will be called racist because I'm not entitled to a view that may disagree with others, and even many others, and some people quite high up the tree. We live in a world now where we're told what to say, what to think, what to do. We have lost our way. So in answer to your question, so has Chief Constables, and that's the reason he has said it. And I was defending frontline policing. I've got nothing to gain or nothing to lose. You know me, Ian. I'm a straight talker. I was defending policing and challenging this institutionally racism before Gavin was even a serving police officer.
Some would say you're just using your white privilege there, Norman, to be able to make those points. And of course, that is, you're absolutely right. It's a bit of a cul-de-sac you're in if you are in your position or current serving officers in the police, because if you deny it or if you don't agree with that specific set of words, institutional racist, somehow, well, you're up there with Eugene Terre-Blanche. You must be you're a sympathiser with the racists. You're part of the problem, etc. Now, we know that there has been in the past examples of racism in lots of industries there have, and we know that the police are held to a higher standard and most officers accept that as well. But there's a world of difference, right, between saying, look, we've got some issues, and saying that the entirety of our network, our entire police service, as it's now called, are institutionally racist. That doesn't mean you don't work on areas that need some addressing. But to come out with that phrase, surely, Norman, is just going to do more damage. I think about the officer on the beat tonight who's got to go out there and have names called, as you guys do every single day. And people thinking, well, don't take my word for it. Your boss says you're racist. And that's where these kind of comments end up, surely.
That's exactly right. When I was a serving police officer, I was a frontline officer. Cressida Dick was a borough commander. She said that the police service were institutionally racist. I challenged her publicly. Over the years, she actually decided that the police weren't institutionally racist. They had a difficult job to do. We have the current Met Commissioner that also won't accept it. These are not stupid people. They're very intelligent people. Let me tell you, one of the biggest issues in Britain is that some sections of the black community are responsible for huge amounts of violent crime, disproportionately so on murders, on street robberies. Now, when I was a serving police officer, I was on a robbery squad for 6 years, and probably about 68%, 70% of all robberies on the North London area were committed by young black men, often on other black men, but the general public. I never ever once, when I trained frontline police officers up and detectives, this is what I do, said, let's go out today and make the black community's life a nightmare. We looked at the statistics, we looked at the descriptions, and they're who we targeted. We stop and search people, not because of the colour of the skin, but because of the statistics and dynamics of the crimes that we're investigating. We taser people, not because of the colour of the skin, but because of the dangers that they pose. And I have to say, I've dealt with policing for 45 years. I'm a straight talker. I could tell you a load of old nonsense and I could buckle like chief constables do. But sadly, there are too many young black children killing other black children, too many mothers planning funerals instead of futures, and we're being distracted now by this word institutionally racist. What would it actually achieve, Ian, if we actually buckled and said, yes, we are? Do you know what? Whatever happened, we then have another avalanche of complaints against police officers and even police now that try and stop those killings from black, and it's often black kids killing other black kids. I'm telling you the statistics, the truth. Some black young men are disproportionately responsible for some of the worst crimes on our statute books, and the police have to challenge them or they can give up. And some of those that are challenging, Ian, that are stopping these young black suspects, there's an outcry by all the groups that always slate us. Those officers are being suspended or being put on restricted duties for years. I know a number of them, and I'm almost certain that they'll be cleared. Their lives are being destroyed. Their families are being destroyed. They're worried sick 24 hours a day for often 2 or 3 years while they're under investigation. And the caveat to all of this, and Gavin Stephens needs to get his act together and sit his arse on his seat. And I'm not trying to be rude, and understand the dynamics of policing. You're a police leader. You're lost. You're detached from frontline. And out of 20,000 new recruited officers, Ian, we've already had 4,500 resign. That's what he should concentrate on, rather than be angry.
Norman, it's very, very passionate stuff, as ever, from you. Thank you for your time. That's Norman Brennan. He's a former police officer, decades of experience in the job. That's his personal assessment of where we are at